Hello McLean and welcome to episode 5 of the MK1 Escort RS 2000 reassembly. As you'll have seen in the last video, I've got quite a lot of parts now that can start getting bolted to this engine. So let's get cracking and let's have the engine ready, hopefully to go in the car within the next couple of weeks. So the first job isn't all that interesting, but it's vital that it's done properly, which is the fitting of the oil pump. Now I've left the bottom pulley on just for reference, so you can see exactly where that oil pump fits, and it fits just in there behind the cam belt pulley. So on this gear here, you'll see, or this part of the crank here, you'll see there's a, I don't know if you can see on the video, there's a flat section on the crank, which basically locates into the oil pump to drive the oil pump. So obviously as the crank spins, it drives the oil pump. Obviously these are the bolts here to bolt it on. It's absolutely crucial that you get the faces nice and clean, so that you get a good seal with the oil pump to the block. I've got new gasket there. These metal gaskets I don't think you use sealer, but I don't see what a tiny little thin smear would do. Would do any harm. So I'm going to use a tiny little thin smear of sealer on the gasket as well, just to give it a bit of a fighting chance of sealing as well. So let's get this oil pump fitted to the car. I don't think there's any need to video it because it's basically a case of lining it up and putting a couple of bolts in, but I'll let you see a little bit of footage when it's finally fitted to the engine. Another thing worth mentioning just before I go and fit the oil pump to the car is this is the crankshaft oil seal which fits into the end of the oil pump. So I need to fit that seal carefully into the oil pump before I fit the oil pump. It's also very crucial that you tighten the bolts up to a specific torque setting. Luckily for me, my best mate has been in the Ford, or in the car, the motor trade for a lot of years. He's got a lot of technical data, and he's found out that the correct torque setting for fitting these oil pumps to the block is 11 Newton meters. So I can now fit this oil pump to the block, as it should be. So this is what I was talking about before when I was saying about your face. It's been perfectly clean. I've spent a little bit of time there making sure that face is absolutely immaculate. Now I'm not an engine builder, but my number one tip for anybody building an engine would be take your time, check and double check everything you do. It's got to be done right. You don't want to get the engine in the car and then have to take it back out because you've missed something out just by going too fast or not paying attention. Another thing that's really, really crucial is cleanliness. The best engines are built in laboratories and immense conditions. So you want to try and make sure everything is completely free of any kind of dust, dirt or grit. Everything wants to be clean, and like I said, just be very methodical with what you're doing. You can't spend too much time in preparation for jobs like this. It's really got to be done right. So that's the oil pump fitted. I'm not too convinced about this seal. This seal here came with the pump from Burton Power, came with the kit. Now, in my experience, fitting oil seals, they're generally an interference fit. Now I applied a little bit of oil around the crank, around the rubber, around the outside edge of the rubber as well to help it slide in. But I managed to push that in with my bare hands, two thumbs, and it pushed in relatively easy. So I'm not too happy with that, because to me that should be an interference fit. If someone tells me otherwise, then I'm happy. But in my experience, they're normally a tight fit. So yeah, that's the pump fitted. The last thing I've got to do is I'm going to pour some oil down the oil pickup, and I'm going to spin the engine backwards and forwards by hand just to prime the pump. You've got to make sure that there's plenty of oil running into the pump, so that when you come to fire up, you've got a fighting chance of getting some oil pressure. Right, that's the oil pump primed. I've poured a fair amount of oil down the pickup, turned it backwards and forwards a few times, and it was definitely moving the oil up and down this tube, so it's now sucked it all through. I'm hoping that's it primed. So same as I was saying before, I've now spent time and I've cleaned up these maintenance services so they're absolutely clinical. They're absolutely beautifully clean now, both sides. The instructions with the sump basically tell you exactly how to fit it. They're fairly easy to follow. So I've got the sump out. I've already went ahead and videoed this bit before I realised. Sorry, I've already went ahead and fitted the baffle plate before I videoed it and realised I hadn't documented it. But all that was a simple case of a bolt in either corner. I didn't quite like the fact that they had no lock washers on the bolts. So basically I've just put some decent Loctite on all 4 bolts to stop them, hopefully stop them coming loose. So that's the sump. I've spent quite a good bit of time and cleaned that sump out as well, because obviously, like I say, being clinical is definitely key. So the sump also comes with the oil pickup pipe, the dipstick tube, everything to fit the full sump basically. It even comes with its own tube of gas concealer. So I can now carry on, get the oil pickup fitted, torqued, sealant fitted, applied to all the main faces as stated in the instructions. Obviously it's vital to follow the instructions to ensure hopefully we get it done right first time. So the job now is to prepare this sump and let's get it torqued down, and obviously that should make a huge difference to the way the engine looks. Not only that, it's obviously going to seal it off and stop any dust or any crap getting in going forward. So the first job is to fit the oil pickup. Now, got the oil pickup here in my hand, which basically goes on, that lines up obviously with that face, right there. And then over here you'll see it hovering over one of the main cap bolts. Basically you remove that bolt, take it out completely and replace it with this. Now this is obviously a shouldered bolt. You tighten that up to 83 Newton meters according to the instructions, and then there's a nut that goes on top, on the top thread section, to hold the oil pickup in place. So I'll set the camera up and I'll let you see a little bit of footage of me fitting this oil pickup. So there we have it, bit of a close-up of the oil pickup pipe fitted to the engine. Torque them up as per the instructions to the specific torque settings. These bolts here, they say to torque them up to 10 Newton meters, which doesn't seem a lot to me, but you know, they're the experts, so you know, I've just got to go with it and you know, take their advice. So they're torqued up. The bolt here, the new bolt, was torqued up to 83 Newton meters as per the instructions. I've done a complete rotation of the engine to make sure there's no contact with the rods and the oil pickup pipe, and we're all good. There's probably at least 5 or 6 mil clearance there, I would say. So yeah, I'm pleased with how that fitted. That fitted really well. So now I'm going to put you back on time lapse again, prepare the block to fit the sump, torque the sump down, and that's a big milestone out the way today. we have it, sump fitted, torque down to 12 Newton meters. I've now got to leave it 24 hours for the sealant to go off and then re-torque to, I think it's 22. I'll have to check on the instructions, but that's it all fitted. Real nice fit actually, it's nice and snug around the journals. No issues at all really. So yeah, another little thing I'm going to do, you've probably noticed online and in the catalogue, these fins here, the top of them are silver, along with the Retro Ford logo, and I think that looks really, really good. So rather than taking the finish off, which will obviously allow the alloy to corrode, I'm going to get a small brush and I'm actually going to paint the top edges of them silver, because I think it looks absolutely spot on. It's just a little bit of attention to detail. So that's the sump fitted. We'll move on to the next job now. Next job today is the water rail. The water rail that I showed you in the last video. To give you a bit of an idea how it fitted in the last video. So I'll just put the camera on while I fit this. There's nothing really too complicated to it. I'll show you when it's all done and explain a little bit more about it. Right, I thought this was worth mentioning. This is obviously the pipe, the water rail. The thermostat obviously fits inside it, that way on. Now there's a little black rubber seal, and I kept thinking to myself, looking at it, I need two seals for one either side of the thermostat, one for the back of it, one for the front. Well, it turns out this rubber seal's got a little groove on the inside, so the thermostat actually fits into the rubber seal. So you basically stretch the rubber seal round the outside edge of the thermostat, and then that drops into the groove nicely, and then when that butts up, as you can see, the rubber protrudes further to seal against the main face. So I thought I'd just mention that because it had me confused for a couple of minutes. There we have it. Another part fitted. Went pretty well. The only little issue I had was, you've probably seen from the time-lapse footage, this bottom bolt here underneath the water rail, the threads were a bit full of crap, so I had to just put a tap through it. After that it seemed to go no problem. So yeah, that's it all fitted. It's got water temperature sensor underneath. There's another blank there for, you know, if you wanted to use it for anything else. Now what they say is this pipe here, this hose here, this is for your heater. So basically you come off that with a rubber hose through to your heater in the car. Now obviously you would block that off if you weren't running a heater. And you might look at it and think, well, it's quite a small hole that. Now the Retro Ford tell people not to drill that out, not to open it up, leave it at that particular size. It's designed that way to aid with flow apparently. So that's something else bearing in mind as well. And then on top there we've got the radiator fan switch. So yeah, there's another part fitted. Right, this is the last job of the day. Fit these two engine mounts. I'm not going to video this. They're very, very straightforward. It's a simple case of fit the right one in place so it lines up with the casting dowels or the casting threads, and pop the bolts in, tighten them up. So there's now, you know, nothing spectacular about this, but I'll get them bolted on and I'll show you when it's when it's all done. And that's definitely the last job today, because I've been going at it since 9 o'clock this morning, and it is now about 2 minutes past 8. So 11 hours I've been going at it today, and I'm definitely in need of a break. Anyways, that's them fitted. Each one of them's got 3 bolts. You might see that there's one there that doesn't look like it's got a bolt in, which it hasn't. because there's no lug on the back for a bolt there. The bolt fixing point is just in behind there. The bolt's underneath. So yeah, these brackets are designed to fit various engines. I think they fit the Zetec as well. That's why there's different hole patterns, and not all of them are utilised on the Zetec or the ST. If it was on the Zetec, it would use a different combination of holes again. Another thing worth mentioning as well is where these bolt onto on the Zetec or the ST block. I don't think they're used in the Focus. So when I painted the block, I actually run I think it's M10 tap through all them threads, because they were absolutely full of crud. They'd never been used before. So just something worth bearing in mind if you come to fit these brackets onto an engine that's never been in a classic Ford before. Well guys, that's another video that's come to a close. Now I've realised I haven't mentioned in the videos, or in this video rather, about the engine, where the engine came from and why I haven't worked on the engine internals, why have I just went on to fitting sumps and brackets and stuff. Well, I thought to myself, I've already mentioned that in a previous video, but I've realised that 80% of my subscribers aren't, 80% of my viewers aren't subscribers, only 20% of my viewers are subscribers. So most people won't know where the engine originally come from. So basically, maybe 3-4 years ago, I got given the engine by two very good friends, Anthony and Steve Buchanan, because many years ago I helped them restore a Series 1 RS turbo shell. That's just what I enjoy doing, so I didn't do it for any money or anything. I did it because I enjoyed it. I enjoy it better than engine building or anything else. That's my thing. So for helping them with that, they brought me this ST170 engine that's sat here. Now, it didn't look like that when I received it. It had done 120,000 miles. I stripped it down and I took all the engine components down for our local motor engineer, Tommy Luthard, who's probably got more experience in engine machining than probably anybody in the country. He's 70 now and he's been doing it since he was 16-year-old. And I passed him all the different engine components and he just kept passing me them back. That's brilliant, that's perfect, that's nowhere, he passed me everything back and he said, these engines are designed to do, 250,000 miles. He says, you'll get a lot more out of that. He says, I wouldn't replace anything other than, while it's in bits, replace the big end bearings and the main bearings. So that's what I did over the lockdown period, and just before the lockdown period earlier this year, I rebuilt the engine, all the internals with new big ends and main bearings, ARP bolts on the conrods, built all the bottom end back up, repainted the block, cleaned and repainted the block, and then obviously I haven't done anything with it until now, and now I'm obviously starting, you've seen in this video, I'm starting to build it back up. So I hope the video has been of some help. Remember, I'm not an engine builder, as I've said. Some of the procedures, some of the ways of doing things like you've seen in this video won't be necessarily the way that everybody does things. Everyone's got their own methods. If it works for you, that's great. And at the end of the day, as long as you end up with a good, strong, reliable engine at the end, then you've got it right. So thanks very much for watching. I appreciate all the views recently. Like I said in the last video, it's been fantastic. I hope it's been helpful. I hope some of the content's useful to some people. And I'll see you very shortly where we'll be doing a little bit more engine work. As always, please remember to like and subscribe. And I'll see you very shortly on the next one.